Hello, I'm so glad you're here. My name's Melissa Lemon and welcome to my next video about anxiety. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about misdiagnosis and um, I don't know that anxiety is ever misdiagnosed as or if like people are ever told they have anxiety when they really don't. I'm sure that's possible. But in my experience, it goes a lot the other way where people are diagnosed with something physical when really their root cause is actually anxiety. And so I will just share a couple of experiences, just my own personal experiences. And I'm just speaking very much from personal experience. So I have a degree in psychology, and I also have, I went to graduate school for a while in mental health counseling, and so I have a lot of graduate level, whatever you want to call it, knowledge and learning in that field. And, you know, theory is very different from real life experience, and real life experience is so much more rich and valuable than theory, in my experience. I can say like I know that for a fact by experience, since I have an education in this field, and then I also have some, you know, a lot of diagnoses in that field of like abnormal psychology. And so these are just my personal experiences, and I imagine that it happens to a lot of people. And so, you know, again, somebody needs to do the research on that. But I will tell you my very first experience with misdiagnosis. And actually, I'm thinking about how when I was in middle school, I used to have symptoms of asthma whenever I exercised. So it would have been diagnosed as exercise-induced asthma. But I never saw the doctor for it. It only ever happened when I was running. It was like I could not get a deep breath. And looking back, I really think that was my body just telling me to stop running. But when you're in school and, you know, you have a teacher and you have, you know, certain things you have to do, like you just kind of are forced almost to do something, even though your body is telling you to stop doing it. And so I think that was my first experience with, I'm going to call it anxiety, even though I know it would have been diagnosed as exercise-induced asthma. So skip ahead many years, and I was living in an apartment next to somebody who smoked really heavily, and that smoke would just kind of seep through the walls, and I couldn't breathe. Like it was so hard for me to breathe. And I did go to the doctor. It became so bad, like anytime I was laying down, it was like I couldn't breathe at all. And I went to the doctor, and I saw a specialist in breathing, and I did it's called a peak flow test. I was 22 at the time, I think, and I had the lungs of a 40-year-old, he told me, based on the peak flow test alone. So my ability to like to exhale and the amount of like, you know, whatever breath coming out when I exhaled in a peak flow test, he said I basically had the lungs of a 40-year-old. And I was put on medication for this, and so I had a couple of inhalers. One is like a consistent medication, and then one is like an emergency medication. Interesting thing, looking back, the emergency medication would work like when I was having an asthma attack. It would work, but only for a few minutes, and then it's like I couldn't breathe again. And so the one medicine like for that I kind of took every day or a couple times a day, I can't remember, ended up being discontinued, and I was upset about that because it was helping me. And I was just kind of like, fine, like I kind of have an interesting history with like negative medical experiences, and I'm sure I'll talk about that someday. But I was just kind of like, whatever, I just won't take my medicine. I just won't take any medicine. I don't want to have to go find another medicine. This one was working. I was just kind of frustrated by the whole thing. And so I didn't take medicine, and my symptoms were pretty low. And anyway, they stayed low. I even would run. And, you know, I ended up doing a half marathon. Was like that's the biggest race I've ever done. And I wasn't really having those problems anymore. I had trained my body to be able to run that long, and so my body wasn't telling me to stop running. I had trained properly, and Anyway, then when crap hit the fan in my life and I needed to go to therapy, I started to work on things emotionally, and I realized that I had such a huge amount of anxiety that I was literally having, these anxiety and panic attacks that was misdiagnosed as asthma. And after doing, 10 years of emotional healing, I have zero symptoms of asthma. I don't get asthma when I exercise. I don't get asthma when I am breathing yucky chemicals. And it's interesting because, um, you know, I used to freak out about that. Like I could feel that my body was not okay with the chemicals I was inhaling, and my reaction was to tense up and to freeze up and to like freak out subconsciously. And it was the freaking out that was causing the lack of breath and the problems with breathing more than the actual chemical. So that was kind of a long story, but that is my first experience with that. And then so my probably most recent experience, I would say, with again, I have issues with doctors, and so I haven't actually been to the doctor for heart issues, but I do have like I'll have palpitations sometimes, and like or I have had before, and the more I have worked on my emotional stuff, the more they have disappeared. And I am not saying don't go to the doctor. Please go to the doctor if you need to go to the doctor. You know when you need to go to the doctor, and I know when I need to go to the doctor. Which is when I'm unconscious and my husband's worried that I'm dying. But, that's my extreme self and my extreme opinions, and you are not that person. That is me. So you know when you need to go to the doctor. Trust yourself and go to the doctor when you need to go to the doctor. But the more I've worked on my emotional self, the more those symptoms have just, all but disappeared. And now I recognize that emotion of heartache has been so big in my life that and heart disease is one of the leading causes among women. And I think it's we have this massive heartache a lot of the times that we're dealing with, and sometimes we don't ever deal with it properly. We don't allow ourselves to feel the heartache and validate the heartache and move through the heartache. Instead it just kind of stays stuck, and it builds up, and then it causes these massive issues with our heart. Of course it does. Heartache is so real and so powerful. I would say of all of the emotions I encounter as an intuitive healer, heartache is one of the most physically strong, intense emotions for me. That has been my personal experience. And so if you think about that piling up and building up, of course it's going to cause problems and issues. And, tension and anxiety can cause all kinds of issues in our neck and our shoulders and like throughout our body. Just there's so many physical symptoms that can pop up when there is anxiety, and these can all be misdiagnosed. And so I would say just keep that in mind. If you're experiencing some physical symptoms and you're not exactly sure what's going on, or maybe you have some diagnoses but you haven't taken a look at the emotional side of things ever, I would highly encourage you to do that, because I believe that like every symptom has energetic ties of some sort, and the physical symptoms aren't ever going to go away no matter how much medicine we take or how much we go to the doctor. They're never going to fully go away unless we address the energetic things as well. And so that was kind of my thing for today. So I think that's it. So I think there's a problem in our society with misdiagnosis of illness because emotional problems are not addressed enough. And so you're probably not dying. Just throwing that out there. Hopefully you're not dying. And just some encouragement to take care of your heart, to take care of your emotions, to take care of your spirit and your body and your soul, and to give yourself time to heal when you've had impactful events in your life that have caused you intense emotions, because you deserve that. And that's really the only thing that's going to give you the healing that you seek, is giving yourself the time to heal from all of the emotional trauma that can come into our lives as human beings. It's kind of, you know, the experience that we get to live here on the earth. And so, and definitely some more than others. And so, those are my thoughts for today. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear about it. If anybody has ever had this experience of being misdiagnosed with a condition when the underlying cause was really anxiety or panic or something like that, I would love to hear about it. So you can leave a comment, or you can always email me at sunriseenergyhealing@protonmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.